Okay, before we start, I'd like to make sure that everyone is signed in for the meeting in the back entrance of the room. If you've not, please do so because it must be on record. I'm Bob Tanner. The other board members are Scott Calhoun and John DePlacido. I'd like to introduce the following members: Matthew Puz, Zoning and Development Officer; Julie Maggio, Assistant Zoning and Development Officer; Jeremy Tillman, Board Solicitor; Tamara Doxey, Court Reporter. After the presentation by the appellant, the board will hear from those in question of the appeal, those in favor, and those opposed. Any document or evidence that is presented must be kept for a period of 60 days for our records. After the presentations are made, the board will recess. We will then reconvene and make our decisions. The board has 45 days to render a decision, but they're usually made this evening. If you do not care to wait for your decision, you may call the zoning office in the morning after 8:30 a.m. I'll ask that everyone please stand to be sworn in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please answer, I do.
I do.
Thank you. First on the agenda was appeal number 23-12, which has been removed.
That is correct.
Okay. Next up is appeal number 23-13, Dick's Sporting Goods for property located at 5800 Peach Street, seeking a height variance to install a fence in excess of 8 feet in height in the C2 Regional Commercial District. Now this, you're doing remotely?
No.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Michael Takas with Bowler Engineering. I'm here tonight representing Dick's Sporting Goods, the entity seeking the variance request. I am joined tonight by Mr. Anthony Cafaro, who represents the Mill Creek Mall. This project is part of the redevelopment at Mill Creek Mall. As you may or may not be aware, the Dick's Sporting Goods is relocating to the former Bon-Ton department store. So that interior work is being commenced, has been underway for some time. Dick's Sporting Goods is modifying the way that their stores run, the offerings that they have. I don't know if you've heard, but they have a very large store, size 90 to 120,000 feet, called a House of Sport. There are 3 of them. One of the key components of these stores is an outdoor field facility, track and field. So it basically, the size varies, but it's normally between 17 and 25,000 square feet of an outdoor area. It is surrounded by an enclosure. There is a turf area in the center, and then a rubberized track that goes around the rest of it. There would be outdoor lighting, really trying to replicate the look and feel of an outdoor track and field facility itself. I can go through this packet real quick with you that I had presented. The first image on the first page is just an aerial. The area of the Bon-Ton is the southernmost building located on this plan that's connected directly to the mall. Again, that mall redevelopment and the Dick's redevelopment is really taking place inside the building. This project is really the addition of the field area itself. The second page basically shows the context of the project itself, where we would be actually modifying the parking lot and the ring road. The next page shows a layout of the field itself. You can see the enclosure area. It's the line with the X's that represent the enclosure itself. And it encompasses that area. There's some additional landscape areas, and then there's a sidewalk that will go around that perimeter to be able to continue the pedestrian circulation for the field itself. If you go into the next image, it's basically just a rendering of that same, just to show the different uses there within the site itself. The closest outdoor field that's attached to a Dick's Sporting Goods, and again, these are House of Sport images. The proposed use at Mill Creek Mall will be the first Dick's Sporting Goods that is not a full-on House of Sport that will have the outside field. So it is a new prototype. It will be the first one in their entire portfolio that will have this combination. So you can see the image, you can see the enclosure around the field. The image on the right, you can see in the winter, they will have a portable chiller, and they will have a outdoor skating rink that is part of that field. So it will be able to be used year-round. The next image is of their Knoxville, Tennessee House of Sport. Again, kind of looking, seeing the proximity of the store to the enclosure and the field area. And the enclosure will be exactly as appears here. That they're all consistent wire mesh that is in between the posts itself. And I believe we are right around 30 feet in total height for this enclosure. The next is Minnetonka, Minnesota. Because we have the images up here, the use of this is really dictated. There are doors that go out, but you enter in from the store. The way these others have been used, there's really an activities director that coordinates activities and events at this location. Not something that will be necessarily can't say 24/7, but there'll be something going on at all times. But if you put on a pair of running shoes and you want to go out and run around the track, you can do that. If you want to take a ball out and pass a ball, bounce a ball, whatever, you can do that out here. But in addition to that, there are a lot of classes, organized lessons, things like that that can take place there, and it's handled through the Dick's Sporting Goods scheduling aspect in the store itself. So there's no actual active sales that takes place here. It really is an amenity added on to the store itself. Our request is basically the way the code is written right now, it identifies fence. There's no provision for additional fencing or additional height for sports related activities. As we mentioned in our application, our letter of intent, the high school baseball field has a fence by the definition that is higher than the 8 feet. The golf training facility out by the airport also has a screen that is used to protect the balls that would still fall under that same definition of fence as what our enclosure is. This enclosure really is to just keep the activities and the balls from leaving the enclosure area and out into the parking lot. So it's not separating properties. We're way internal to the mall. We feel that the application of our variance really will be of no negative impact to the community. And then conversely, the addition of the field and the enclosure will actually be an asset. So.
Okay. So, I mean, obviously by the pictures we can see it, but is it a fully see-through fence, correct?
Correct.
Chain link, is that?
It is it's not a welded wire, it is a chain link. It'll be vinyl coated, so it'll be dark in color, so it's not the bright, shiny galvanized.
Okay. And the total height, just so I can write it, you said was
It's
approximately 30
feet, correct.
What is that in relation to the store? Because I see on some of these, it's up higher than the store, must be a one-story store, whereas you have a two-story.
Correct. I don't know that I actually have an elevation that has shown that yet. Mr. Gafar, do you know exactly how tall, do you have an idea how tall that Bonton?
Oh, so I'll need
I'm
you to
sorry.
come up and state your name just so we can get it on the record properly.
Thank you. My name is Anthony Cafaro Jr. with Mill Creek Mall, Cafaro Peachtree Joint Venture Partnership. I don't have the specific height offhand, but I can tell you that the building is in excess of the 30 feet, so this
Okay.
will not exceed the height of the two-story building.
Okay. So it would be more like, let's go to your pictures. It'd be more similar to like
Minnetonka.
Minnetonka.
Correct.
Minnesota, where the fence does not exceed the buildings.
Yes.
Okay.
With a fence this tall, what kind of safety considerations are there when you get that high? How do you,
So it is not like it's a fence by definition, but it is not like a fence. There are steel posts that are almost like columns that are set into the ground and engineered for wind loading. It's a substantial structure. Really, the chain link, the mesh, is really just providing that barrier. All the strength is coming from the steel posts, steel columns. And it is engineered. It will be reviewed by the township's building department, or third-party reviewer. It has a full structural design that accompanies it. So it's, again, it's hard to call it a fence because it is something much more significant as far as in its structure.
is it attached to any of the buildings? Do you know?
I mean, it will run all the way up to, but I believe the end is at best a rail. I think it's a column that's mounted at the very edge, so I don't think it's physically
Actually attached?
correct. It will butt all the way against it, but it will be that last column.
Matt, pause. Is there any difference in definition between enclosure versus fence? Because he brought up, that was one of the first things that I thought of when I had reviewed this previously, was a baseball backstop that hits probably that height.
Yeah, I mean, under the prior ordinance, ornamental fence actually was not defined, so a lot of the existing fences or barriers, enclosures met the ordinance. With the new ordinance update, the fence definitions were added. By definition, it does meets the definition of a solid fence. So that's, I understand what you're asking, but that section also includes fence, hedges, enclosures, and other similar items.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if there's any, because we have a field project going on right up the road here that has, I'm sure, fencing that exceeds that, and I don't know if there's another
Yeah, I believe that was,
definition.
yeah, that was approved, I think, in 2019 under the old ordinance.
Oh, it was old, okay, yeah. Just wasn't sure how we're defined, so there's no other enclosure definition or anything else out there that we,
No, not at this time.
yeah. So I know you're obviously careful to call it an enclosure for, I understand the reasons why, because it's, yeah. Okay, good questions. Anything else right now?
Okay.
Okay, anything else that either of you would like to state right now?
Yes, thank you. I just would like to thank you in advance for the support on this project and others at Mill Creek Mall. You know, I've spoken with folks in the township for some time about the concerns about the future of malls in general, and I know with the new zoning in place, we're appreciative that we have the ability to change. You know, we're heading into our 50th year coming up here in 25, and Dick's Sporting Goods has been a part of the mall complex for over 3 decades. So to be able to facilitate millions of dollars in new investment by Dick's Sporting Goods, and this is actually their 3rd location at the mall complex. You may recall that they were on the site just behind where Firebirds is located now. Shows a substantial commitment from that company, and I think from Mill Creek Mall. And we just recognize that we have to change, and this is the evolution of what shopping centers have become, with elements like the field. And as it was mentioned, this is the first of its type attached to a Dick's Sporting Goods of the hundreds of stores across the United States. And we're privileged, we feel privileged that they have chosen Erie, Pennsylvania, Mill Creek Township as their first test of having this element attached to a traditional Dick's Sporting Goods store.
Okay. Nothing here? Okay. Is there anyone in the audience who has anything like to contribute toward this? Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on, appeal number 23-14, Carrie, Helen, and Emily Goldsmith for property located at 2702 Angle Street, seeking a use variance for the non-commercial keeping of livestock in the R1 Single Family Residential District.
Yes, my name is Ken Margolis. I'm appearing remotely. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear us?
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, now I can.
Okay.
I'm an attorney. I volunteer for a nonprofit called the Society for Advancement of Pet Pigs, doing business as Pig Placement Network, and I help pot-bellied pet pig owners who have issues like this. I'd like to thank you for allowing me to appear remotely. I'm about 7.5 hours away, so it would have been very difficult. And I'm representing the Goldsmiths in this matter. The Goldsmiths request a variance from the requirements of section 1. Pardon me?
I didn't say anything. Yes, I can.
I can't hear you, but I'll keep on going. The Goldsmiths request a variance from the requirements of section 145.41C because the zoning officer said that they needed one in order to keep their pet house and their outside accommodations for their 2 pot bellies. We also request a variance from 145.15, especially subsection D, if the board feels that that is necessary. The zoning officer, as it's clear from Exhibit A, which is attached to the application, stated that the Goldsmiths, Potbellies, Penelope, and Patty are household pets under the Mill Creek Township's previous ordinance, specifically section 145.35, as they came to live at the Goldsmith residence in 2020, as testimony will show, and are therefore lawful non-conforming under the current ordinance, even though they are still household pets and not livestock or farm animals. That differentiation is critical to this situation. While I don't necessarily believe that the Goldsmiths require a variance, because the zoning officer is asserting that the pet house, the structure in question, is a non-allowed, non-commercial structure for livestock under section 145.41C, that is why my clients are here seeking relief from you. Again, as the zoning officer, Mr. Puss, said was necessary under his interpretation of the zoning codes. Because the requirements of that section are intended to protect neighboring properties from active agricultural uses, in my opinion, the 50-foot setback requirement applicable to agricultural buildings should not apply to the Goldsmiths Pet House or pet accommodations. If the board agrees with the zoning officer interpretation, then we seek a variance to the setback requirements either under the old code or the new code, which are impossible to meet due to the size of the lot, and a variance to allow the pet house to remain. In an abundance of caution, the Goldsmiths also request relief from section 145.15, as I previously mentioned, and as the zoning office interpreted the ordinance, providing that the keeping of domesticated companion household pets as the non-commercial keeping of livestock. The Goldsmiths were told by the zoning office that they had to get a variance for the pet house after first being told that they had to remove their pets from their property by June 2nd. That determination was withdrawn, as you can see again in Exhibit A. So the variance application is now before you, even though under the current ordinance, their small pet house for Penelope and Penny, their domesticated companion household pets, would be allowed and meets the current setback requirements that a dog house or any other accessory that are customarily and incidental to the permitted use, just like a dog house is. At this point, I'd like to ask Emily Goldsmith to give to the audit hearing board and the solicitor and the court reporter and the zoning office copies of 14 pages of documents that I will briefly go over. And these documents serve to further inform the board of the difference between pet potbellies and livestock or farm animals, which is critical to this case.
If I may, before we get, I'm attempting to try and, so we don't go off the rails too far on this and to really narrow the issues, if I may, Mr. Margolis. As indicated, you know, we have had conversations with Mr. Margolis regarding this issue. The real threshold issue is, one, the initial notice was issued with respect to it violating 145-41C, which is the non-commercial keeping of livestock. It was presented by Mr. Margolis that these pigs had been at the property prior to the other zoning ordinance. So if they're trying to establish there's an existing non-conforming use, that really needs to happen first before we really get into the analysis of their pets and they can be kept there, because that may resolve the issue with respect to 145-41C. Because if it's a lawful non-conforming use of the property, 145-41C does not apply. It's the new one. So I think that's the threshold issue, is if these pigs were there before the last one, we may not need to go down the path of the setback requirements of 145-41C of the
Okay.
new ordinance. There are still issues under the old ordinance, but that, to cut that out.
Okay. Did you hear that, Mr. Margolis?
I did. However, as I mentioned, Mr. Cause informed me that we had to apply for a variance to 145.41C, so that's what the application was. I understand what the solicitor is saying, and testimony will address her concern about that. Okay, so does everyone have the documents?
Yes.
Okay, so you see, the first one is a proclamation from Governor Ridge. The most important part, I think, is the third paragraph, where it says, "Whereas similar to dogs, pot-bellied pigs can be trained to do many things because of their intelligence. They can do tricks, be easily housebroken, and even be trained to walk on a leash." Again, the analogy to dogs is pets. The second document federal definitions, just sets out the federal definitions of a pet animal versus a farm animal or livestock, which I think, that livestock is pretty much defined as animals that are raised for food or dairy or some kind of consumption, as opposed to pets. The third page is from the Pennsylvania Livestock Association, and that says that essentially, there's no market for potbelly pigs as a food product. These pigs are only raised to be pets. Again, the Livestock Association is saying that they're not livestock. Another proclamation, next page, from the state of Alabama. There's some more Department of Agriculture from the state of Illinois. A few things from vet clinics talking about how these are pets and not farm animals. One of them is in Quakertown, Pennsylvania. Again, Rutgers Cooperative Extension, the potbelly has gained the recognition of a domestic animal. New Jersey Livestock Association is the same about that they are raised to be pets. Then there's a few documents about how there's sale tax that applies to potbellies when they're sold as pets, livestock and their feed is the same. It's taxed for potbellies. And then there's some documents from the United States Department of Agriculture that basically reiterates what I've been saying. I'm not going to read them all. So if there aren't any questions, I'll proceed with witnesses.
Do you have anything? No questions?
Is that-
None at this time. Proceed with witnesses, please.
Okay. I would first call Helen Goldsmith.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Helen Goldsmith, 2702 Angle Street, Erie, PA, 16506.
Thank you.
Mrs. Goldsmith, how long have you lived at 2702 Angle Street?
23 years in August.
And who lives there with you?
My husband, me, and my daughter.
Okay. And do you have any fencing at the property,
Yes,
in the backyard?
yes.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing anything.
Yes.
Hear me?
Yes, there's fencing.
Okay. When you moved in 23 years ago, was that fencing there?
No, we have new fencing.
I'm having trouble hearing, Mrs. Goldsmith.
We have new fencing.
I'm sorry, what was that?
There's new fencing.
No, I'm sorry, I'm still not hearing that. I don't know
Why
if
don't you
it's
sit,
a mic or...
if you sit here, maybe it's closer to the owl. I don't know where the speakers are in it. Yeah, so the closer you are to the owl, the more the
Some of it's new, some of it's old.
Okay, so the new fencing replaced old fencing in the same place, or was new fencing in different place?
New fencing in different place. And then we put new fencing up for the potbelly pigs. Then that's new.
Well, there's fencing around the back border of the property. Was that there when you moved in?
Yes, it was.
There's fencing that abuts the tire company. Is that new or was that there?
That was there.
I'm sorry?
That was there.
And when did you install
It's been there when we moved in there. And the new fencing was put in a few years ago. And when the pigs came home, the new fencing was put up.
it? When was that?
2000, when they were moved home, because she was allowed, she checked.
You know, I'm still having difficulty hearing her. This is problematic.
They were put, yes, they were put in. There's new fencing put in 2000, summer of 2020 for the pigs. That's new.
Okay. And that new fencing is what part of the backyard?
It's in the backyard. It's the side there. It's separate from the backyard, and then there's separate fencing for the other part of the yard.
Okay. And when did Penelope and Penny come to live with you?
The summer of 2020, because she was allowed. She checked.
Okay. All right. And have you had any complaints from any neighbors about your potbelly pigs or your backyard?
No, nobody even knows that they're there.
Okay. That'll be all. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do have some additional questioning for you, with respect to this property. How wide is your property? Do you know?
I don't know the exact measurements on it.
And I can ask that over there. What structures are located on the property?
Just the house and a garage.
Any other structures?
No, house and a garage, and that's
I've
it.
heard reference to a pig house.
Yeah, well, it's a house. It's a little house. That they just sleep in.
And do the pigs live inside or do they sleep outside?
No, they sleep outside.
So they don't live in the house at all?
No.
And you indicated that Penny and Penelope arrived in 2020 this summer.
Yes, because she checked.
Who's she?
My daughter did.
Thank you. And do you know when she's checked to see if the pigs were permitted?
She checked back in 2011. She called to see, because she was looking at grooming dogs, and they said, no, you can't groom dogs, that's a business, you can't do that. But yes, the potbelly pigs are allowed, because they're a domesticated animal.
And the two pigs you currently have, are they the same two that you had in 2020, that you bought? in 2020?
Yes, the same thing.
Did you have any pigs prior to
No.
the two you had? So those are the only two you have?
Yes.
And so are they juveniles, or I don't know how pigs range from age, are they kind of like puppies and kittens, but I don't know, piglets, how old are they?
You'd have to ask my daughter.
And I can ask you later, thank you. Is there any point since 2020 where you haven't had the pigs?
No,
And are there any other pets that are on the property?
just dogs, and we have dogs, that's it.
And how many dogs?
I have 3.
And so you indicate the pigs don't live in the house, but they live outside?
They live just in the pen, yeah.
And what is all in the pen area?
Just the pig house, that's it. Structure, that's it.
And then I'm going to show you, I did previously provide these all via email, but this is an aerial photo of the property. Could you identify on there where the pig area is located?
In the circle, I just put a circle there.
And is there any distance between the fence, is the pig area directly abutting the property line?
The property line over here?
No, the back, the rear property line, like the rear property line here?
No, it's not. What is abutting, did you say?
Is the area where the pigs live, is it directly abutting
No.
Is, what is there, so is there a fence?
There's a fence,
I
yeah.
know
This
there's
is
a
our
fence.
property,
I
there's a
understand that
fence.
there's a fence, but is there anything between the fence and where the pigs live? Like in their enclosure? Or is it where the pigs live or within that fenced-in area?
It's just in the fenced-in
So
area.
there's no setback between pig,
What do you mean, like a setback?
like, it's, under the zoning ordinance, you're required to have a setback for like your house. Your house can only be so close to the edge of the property line, so like say 10 feet.
Oh, our house was built in 1940.
I understand that, but if you were to build a new house, you have to have you cannot be directly on the property line, so your house could not be on this yellow line.
Okay.
So does the pig enclosure area where the pigs live, is that set back from the property line, or is it all fence and then pig area?
It's the fence, and then the pig house is up here.
Okay, so the fence is on the property line.
Yes.
And gentlemen, on the drawing, you've indicated that the pig pen area is over here.
Nobody sees them, nobody hears them.
And
So we're in agreement, the pig area, pen, building, whatever we're calling it, abuts the rear property line?
Abuts the real property line?
It's up against the rear property line? Is that what you're stating?
There's a fence, okay, here's the garage, here's a fence, it's in this little square area.
Okay.
That's it. Just like you would fence in a backyard for your dog or whatever.
Okay, but is it up against the rear property line?
What's up against the real property line?
No, the building, the enclosure,
No, it's not.
it's in the middle of that fenced area?
It's right behind the garage.
About how far from that enclosure is the fence? About how far? A couple feet? In feet?
3 feet, I don't know, 8 feet?
Okay.
It's pretty far.
is it safe to say though that it's a fenced-in area designated for the pigs,
Yes,
and then in that fenced-in area, there is a pig house?
right,
And then there's a separately fenced-in area for the rest of the area?
yes,
So there's two separate areas?
yes, 2 separate areas.
And, you indicated that there was new fencing installed in 2020 when you got the pigs.
Yes,
Did you have to request any permission from the township? to
no.
install fencing? Indicated that no complaints from the neighbors.
No, they don't even know that they're there.
And how are, with the pigs on the other, how is the waste handled?
She scoops it and it goes in a bag and just like you would your dog, just you clean up your dog in the yard, put it in a bag and it goes in the garbage.
Sure. Okay. Is there anything about the property in terms of the shape or size that's unique?
No, it's just a regular,
Is there anything about the property that would prevent you from using it in accordance, like as a residence?
no,
And pigs, you obviously purchased the pigs or adopted the pigs in 2020 and adopted
She
it.
did, yeah.
They weren't there when you purchased it. Do you feel that the keeping of the pigs alters the essential character of a residential neighborhood?
No, nobody knows that they're there. Nobody's, because there's been no complaints.
I mean, the whole reason we're here is because we received a complaint, so is it fair to say that there has been at least one complaint about the pigs?
Well, yeah, she's the only one, and she doesn't live in the neighborhood. She's trying to sell something that hasn't been able to sell.
Those are all the questions I got for you right now.
Okay.
Thank you. I don't know if your council has any redirect or anything.
No, I'm not redirect. I'll call Emily Goldsmith, who will answer more of the questions that the solicitor posed, that she's really the one involved with the pets,
Should I sit here?
or more involved, I would say.
That way you can be
Hi.
hear you better.
Okay. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, can you please state your name
Emily Goldsmith,
and your address?
2702 Ingle Street, Erie, PA 16506.
And how long have you lived there?
Since 2000.
Okay. And when was your first contact with the zoning officer?
Back in 2011.
What was the nature of your contact?
I was just getting done with grooming school, and I wanted to ask about having a grooming business and then having a pet pot-bellied pig.
And what kind of response did you get?
I wasn't allowed to have a grooming business because I wasn't within zoning, and they said that pot-bellied pigs are classified as
I'm
domesticated.
not hearing again, gentlemen.
Can you hear me now?
Yes?
Okay. That the email stated I wasn't allowed to have a grooming business because I wasn't within zoning, but pet belly pigs were allowed.
Yeah, this isn't working. I'm not quite sure why.
I think you just have to really try to speak up very loudly.
Microphone is in
In there, so,
Yeah, so if you
okay,
projected that,
You can project when you say, can you hear me now, but then you go back down to.
Okay. Can you hear?
I can,
Okay.
now I can't.
Go ahead.
So I wasn't allowed,
Move the mic closer if you can.
is it better?
I can hear you now.
Okay, so it was back in 2011 when I was done with grooming school. I had emailed Mill Creek Township to ask about having a grooming business on the property and then having a pet pot-bellied pig.
Well, how do you know it was about that time, 2011?
That was when I was graduating from the grooming school out in Jord.
Oh. What response did you receive?
When they had emailed me back, I wasn't allowed to have a grooming
Not
business.
hearing.
Speak up.
When they were emailing me back, can you hear me?
Yes?
Okay, so when they were emailing me back, I wasn't allowed to have a grooming business because I wasn't within the zoning, but I was allowed to have a pet pot-bellied pig because it was classified as a domesticated pet.
Okay. And do you remember who you might have had that communication with?
Chuck Pierce?
Okay. Now, you have a pet house for Penelope and Penny, is that correct?
That's correct.
And did you measure the size of the house?
Yes, I did.
And what are those measurements?
So it was 24 inches long, I'm sorry, 4.5 feet tall, 3 feet high, and then 3.5 feet wide.
Okay.
Can you read, you stated, hold on, she stated the height twice. Could you just,
Sorry, 4.5 feet tall,
Or the other dimensions?
and then,
Now, I'm going to look at the measurements again that you took. What does it say?
so I wrote 3.5 feet high,
And I can't hear you.
can you hear me now?
Yes,
Okay, so 3.5 feet
I
wide,
can't.
3.5 feet wide. Did you get it?
Well, I'll have to ask you back. Are you saying that it's 4.5 feet long, 3 feet high, and 3.5 feet wide? Is that your testimony?
Yes.
Okay. So, when did Penelope and Penny start living at 2702 Angle Street?
Back in 2020.
Talk loud, Emily.
Back in 2020?
No, I'm not hearing her. I'm sorry.
Back in 2020?
Okay. And when was the pet house that you gave the measurements for put on the property?
The summer of June
Of what year?
2020.
Okay. Now, did you measure your pets recently?
Yes, I did.
And what are their measurements?
Let's see. So 24 inches long and 15 inches tall.
Okay. And how much time do you spend with them?
Roughly 4 hours a day.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Roughly 4 hours a day.
Okay. And how often do you clean the yard?
In the morning, in the evening.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And did you happen to measure the backyard?
Yes, I did.
And what are those measurements?
So 64 feet from the back of the house,
To the what?
from the house to the fence,
Okay.
and then 52 feet wide.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Are your pets full grown?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Now, I'm going to direct you to another packet and ask you to distribute it to the same people that you did before,
Okay.
please.
Thank you.
Now, Emily, remember to talk loud, okay, so I can hear you?
Okay.
So the cover page is an aerial view which we just saw before.
Yes.
This is from Google Maps that I downloaded. And the orange mark represents your house, is that correct?
That's correct.
And as you're looking to your house from Angle Street, what's on your right that's immediately next door to you?
Gorment Tire Service.
Okay. And then what's across the street from the top?
Midway Beer Store?
Right. Okay. And you only have a few neighbors on Angle Street, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you have one neighbor, there's the empty lot, and then there's the neighbor to the left of it, right?
That's correct.
Oh. Do you happen to circulate a petition among these neighbors to see whether or not they were in agreement with your application and the location of your pet house and the accommodations they currently have?
Yes, I did.
I'm sorry, what was your answer?
Yes, I did.
Okay, and you have copies of that as well?
Correct.
For the board and the solicitor and the court reporter and zoning office, would you please give them each one? Okay, so that I would include as another exhibit from us, and it gives names and addresses of immediately adjoining neighbors, which is self-evident. I don't think I need to ask any questions about that. Now let's go back to the pictures, and you turn from the aerial view, and you see the one labeled 1 at the top right. first picture after the aerial view. What is that a picture of?
The front of our house.
I'm sorry, talk up, please.
The front of our house?
And you took all these pictures that we're gonna look at, right?
That is correct.
And when did you take them?
3 weeks ago?
Okay, now let's go to number 2. And what's that a picture of?
This side of our house?
Talk up, Emily, please.
The left side of our house?
Okay. And what property does that face?
Katie's house, on the left side.
Okay, and picture 3, what does that show?
Part of our backyard, where the dogs go.
That's part of your backyard, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay, now picture 4, what does that show?
The rest of our backyard?
All right. And it's not showing the penthouse yet, is it?
No, it's not.
Okay. And then what's picture 5?
My 2 potbelly pigs, Penelope and Penny. And then Frankie, my French bulldog.
Okay. And that's still not showing the penthouse, is it?
No.
Okay. And what's picture 6?
Penelope and Penny, and then my French bulldog again.
Now, is that showing the penthouse?
No.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
No?
Did you say no?
Yeah, I said no.
Okay.
What's in the
And
top,
picture 7.
hold on 1 minute while we're looking at this.
I'm sorry.
1 moment while we're looking at this picture. What's in the top right corner?
It's just a little shade thing for them that they go under in the summertime, and they'll lay underneath it.
Could you
Okay.
repeat that louder, please, Emily?
It is a area that they go and lay under for the summertime when it's hot, and they want to cool off.
Okay, can I go on to picture 7?
Sure.
Picture 7, what does that show?
The pet house.
And did you measure the distance between the pet, and the pet house is where? On the right?
Yeah, that's correct. It's on the right.
Okay. And did you measure the distance from the back fence to the pet house?
Yes, I did.
And what was that distance?
It was 33 inches.
I'm sorry?
It was 33 inches.
Did you say 33 inches?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And, so more than 2 feet. And what's the structure on the left?
That's
Picture 7.
the tire business.
What's that?
It is the tire business.
Is that the tire?
Yes, it's the tire business.
And what's picture 8?
Penelope and Penny again. And then Frankie, my French bulldog.
And what's behind Penelope and Penny to the right?
Their pig house.
Okay, fine. So, how do you feel about your pets? What's your relationship with them?
I mean, I absolutely love my pigs. I've had them since they were 8 weeks old. And they're very cherished and important to me. So I spend a lot of time with them each day.
Okay, I have no further questions at this time.
Okay.
I do have some follow-up questions.
Okay.
Mr. Margolis, can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
Now I could, I
Okay.
couldn't before.
Emily, if I may call you Emily.
Yeah, that's fine.
You testified that you had reached out to the township in 2011, correct?
Yes,
But that you did not acquire the pigs until 2020, correct?
yes.
Is there a reason, did you reach out to the township between 2011 and 2020 to see if there have been any changes with respect to the zoning office interpretation?
No.
Any reason you didn't?
No specific reason.
And you indicated that there was an email between you and the township regarding that.
Yes,
Do you have a copy of that email?
I don't.
You also, did you prepare this petition that was, I've marked it as Exhibit 3. Did you prepare this petition?
Yes,
And you indicated that you had your pets since they were about 8 weeks old, correct?
yes.
And how old are they now?
3 and 4.
3 and 4.
Yeah. I got them, Penelope's the older one and Penny's the younger one.
Okay. And then, and this is the petition that you prepared, correct?
Correct.
And if I direct you to the petition, you indicate that Penelope and Penny, they've had for a year, which is inconsistent with your previous testimony that you've had them for at least since 2020. So you had them for a year, or?
For a year on the property, so.
So they've only been on the
last-
property for a year?
Since last June, yeah. So,
Okay.
yes, that would be.
Okay. And with respect to, I previously showed this to your mom.
Yeah,
And this, the general area where the pig enclosure, like where the fencing is?
yeah,
Does it go from the corner by the tire shop to about this area, like by where the circle is?
yes,
And then up to the back of the garage?
yes. And there's a gate.
Okay.
So.
That's all the question I have.
Okay, a couple questions.
You have one, I'm sorry, I beg your pardon. Go ahead.
I have a couple questions. We have testimony so far, and Mr. Margolis, and what you said, and what Helen said, and Emily said, everything was consistent about 2020 is all the notes that I've taken. How long have the pigs been on the property?
Since last June.
Okay. I'm questioning the testimony from two of you saying summer of 2020. What is 2020 in relation to all of this?
That's when they came from, I brought them back from the boarding barn. That's when they came on our property.
It's been 2020 is what's been stated to date that they came on the property.
Yes.
It's now 2023. And you just stated that they've been there for 1 year.
Well, a year and a half, so. But I brought them home from the boarding barn back in June of 2020. So that's when they've been on our property.
But in your testimony just now, you said 1 year.
And you
Yeah.
said last June.
Reread that. So it was last June of 2020 when,
2022?
yeah, 2022, sorry. June of 2022 is when I brought the pigs home.
Is there a reason why so far, I don't know how many, probably 6 or 8 times it's been stated summer of 2020? Your mother, I won't ask you about what your mother said, but, you
It
know.
it was June of 2022 is when I brought them home from the boarding barn.
Mr. Margolis, are you on board with that it's only been 1 year? Because,
Since
I'm
last,
sorry, could you repeat that, sir?
in everything that's been said to date, has been circled around 2020. I'm going through your brief quickly now to try to see what's in there. I'm just questioning the difference in dates.
question or not yet?
Hold on, please, I'm trying to circle back and understand. Yes,
Okay.
so in the application for permit, it specifically states which existed before their arrival in 2020 on one page. I mean, and there's multiple times in multiple places it's been said 2020. And now, at the very end of all the testimony, now all of a sudden we're saying 2022. I'm confused. We have multiple testimony under oath that don't add up at all by a delta of 2 years. That's the reason for my question. If you'd like to respond, feel free. Mr. Margolis?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please feel free to respond to that.
I can't hear you, sir.
Please feel free to respond to that.
My understanding from the testimony and the information I've received is that the pigs came to live at 2702 Angle Street in 2020, June of 2020. That's all that I've ever known.
Miss Emily, Miss Goldsmith, Emily Goldsmith, could you please state for the record under oath, when did the pigs come to live on the property?
They've been on, I bought them back on the property June of 2022, I believe. It was June of 2022. So they've been since last June on the property. Sorry for the mix-up of the
You
year.
mentioned that you've had them since they were 8 weeks old,
Yes,
and now they're 3 and 4.
yes.
Where were they before?
Greenfield Township, at a horse boarding barn.
Okay.
Yeah,
And so they were only brought to this property, subject property, 2702 Angle, in June of 2022.
yes, that's correct.
You got them in 2020, but they didn't come to the...
No, I got them years ago. They're 3 and 4 now. They were around like 8 weeks when I got them from a breeder up in Ohio.
Okay,
And they went from me picking them up to the boarding barn out in Greenfield Township.
okay.
It was just last June of 2022 when I moved them home,
Okay. So some questions for you related to how everything goes down. I don't profess to know anything about this. So they live fully outside, or do they come inside, or are they
No, they're fully outside.
fully outside?
Yes.
Okay. And this enclosure that's there that we've said is roughly 3.5 by 4.5 by 4.5 foot tall,
Yes.
give or take.
Where's that measuring? Yeah.
So they're out there 12 months a year. Is there heat or electricity to it, or?
I put straw in their house that keeps them pretty warm
Okay,
for the winter time and stuff. That's what a lot of people do when they have pigs
okay.
outside.
I don't know.
Yeah, so,
Understood.
Do they make noise?
they oink and they squeal. It's not very loud, so, yeah.
All the time?
No, not all the time, so, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I have any other questions right now.
Okay.
I don't have any questions from Ms. Goldsmith at this point in time. I do have some follow-up from the township.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can I go back? Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Margolis,
Yes, sir.
did you have any,
Oh, I have no further witnesses, I beg your pardon.
okay? Go ahead.
I mean, I'm kind of curious, I might him redirect to Helen Goldsmith, but I'll save that for now.
Thank you, gentlemen. As I indicated at the beginning, I did believe this was an
I can't hear you.
As I indicated at the beginning, I did believe this to be related to a non-conforming use based on the information that had been previously provided. I do not believe that is the case anymore, because if the pigs have only been residing there for a year, since June of 2022, that is subsequent to the adoption of the township's new zoning ordinance. So I do not believe, based on testimony, that they would be entitled to a lawful non-conforming use of the property. So we would be really evaluating this truly under 145-41C. So I did hand out a memo, and I emailed that as well to council. There is some discussion regarding a non-conforming use, which I no longer think is applicable. But I do have testimony from Mr. Puz and brief testimony from Ms. Maggio with respect to the specifics of the zoning ordinance and the property and the concerns we have. If you will indulge me, I will be as brief as I possibly can be for you gentlemen.
Go ahead.
I'm going to begin with Ms. Maggio. Mrs. Maggio. Could you please state your name for the record?
Julie Maggio,
And what is your current occupation?
Assistant Zoning and Development Officer.
And it's included in the appeal packet, but did you previously mail to the Goldsmiths a letter dated May 10th, 2023?
Yes.
And gentlemen, it's in the packet. I'm happy to provide you with a copy if you need it. What was the nature of the notice of violation that you provided?
The township received a complaint, and I investigated it and took a look at the property, took a photo, and sent a letter to the property owners. And I cited section 145-11, the non-commercial keeping of livestock.
And where is this property located in terms of zoning districts?
R1 district.
And does the R1 district permit the keeping of any livestock?
No, it does not.
And where in the township are you permitted to keep the non-commercial keeping of livestock?
The CR district.
Okay. And is this the photo that's attached to the letter, though? You took this photo?
Correct.
And Ms. Maggio, I'm going to show you, or provide to you, a collection of photos. Did you take these photos?
I took some, and Matt Puz took some.
Okay. And Mr. Puz, I will verify with you as well. But, so you took some of these. And these were taken on what day?
June 27th.
So yesterday.
Correct.
And from your observation of the property, is it that the pig enclosure area, including the pig house, directly abuts on the property?
Yes,
Excuse me, directly abuts on the property line of the abutting property?
correct.
Now, under section 145-C, 145-41C, what provision does that concern? And I have a copy if you'd like me to give that to you. Does 145-41C concern the non-commercial keeping of livestock of the zoning ordinance?
Yes,
And there are certain setback requirements and acreage requirements for that section, correct?
yes, there is.
And does this property meet the 2 acre minimum?
No, it does not.
Would it be your opinion that the structures housing the pigs are set back 50 feet currently?
I did not measure, but it doesn't appear to be.
Is the fence set back 10 feet from the property line, which will be required for the enclosure of animals under that section?
It doesn't appear to be.
How long have you been Assistant Zoning and Development Officer?
Over 20 years?
Okay. Do you recall receiving any inquiries from the Goldsmiths regarding keeping pet pigs?
I do not recall that.
In the last 2 years, do you recall any inquiries?
I do not recall that.
Did you receive any inquiries under anything recently relating to keeping pigs beyond this complaint?
No.
Are you familiar with the lot size, like the dimensions of the lot? And I have a copy of the assessment record.
It's 60 by 150.
Okay. So the setback, it's a very narrow lot.
Correct.
Likely difficult to meet all the setback requirements.
Yes.
And even if they could meet the setback requirements, the non-commercial keeping of livestock is not permitted in this district, correct?
That's correct.
And the zoning ordinance does have a definition with respect to livestock, is that correct?
Yes.
Can I direct you to page, gentlemen, I'm sorry, I haven't given you copies. 21 of the zoning ordinance.
Yes.
Could you please read off the definition of livestock?
Livestock. For the purposes of this chapter, livestock shall be defined to include cows, pigs, horses, sheep, goats, llamas, and other similar types of farm animals.
Does this make a distinction as to whether or not someone's keeping it as a pet versus using it for farming purposes?
No, it does not.
And would pigs be considered livestock in this definition?
Yes.
We don't make a distinction between pot-bellied pigs.
No.
Thank you, Ms. Maggio. Julie, that's all the questions I have for you. I'll have brief questions for you, Mr. Pez. Any questions from Mr. Margolis? For you, Julie? I don't know.
Yes, I'm curious, did you ever survey the property to know where the boundaries are?
No.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
No.
that. You said no?
Correct.
So you really don't know where the pet house is in relationship to the boundary in terms of a survey? You only know where it is in relationship to the fence. And also, would you agree that 33 inches is a reasonable distance that the pet house is from the fence? Is that a yes, a no, I don't know. I
I
can't,
don't regulate pet houses.
still can't hear you.
Yeah,
Maybe you could
yeah.
repeat your
Yeah.
answer, I just can't hear what you said.
I don't regulate pet houses. If it's a detached accessory structure, it would have to be, like a garage or a shed, 2 foot off the property line.
No, I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Isn't it true that you also sent a letter to the Goldsmiths telling them that they had to get rid of their pets by June 2nd?
I did give a deadline, correct, of June 2nd.
So, was there an answer?
Yes, June 2nd was the deadline.
have no further questions.
I have redirect on that. Julie, I previously identified an aerial map of the property. Is this from the Connect system that the township has access to that identifies the boundary lines for properties?
Yes.
And could you identify where the fencing area is? Is it where the yellow lines are at?
It's approximately where the yellow lines are located.
And there are interior fences, but we don't know exactly where those are at.
Correct.
And with respect to your notice that you issued in May of 2023, the deadline was to either remove the animals or to appeal the determination, correct?
Yes.
That's all I have. Briefly with Mr. Puz, unless you guys have any questions for Julie. Or if you, or I can, yeah, so,
No, I don't.
thank you. Mr. Puz, could you please state your name and occupation for the record?
Matthew Puz Jr., Zoning and Development Officer for Mill Creek Township.
And how long have you served in the role as zoning and development officer?
Approximately 5.5 years,
Okay, so you started in 20...
2018.
Okay. Did
It may
you,
have been 2019, January, I apologize.
no, you're fine. Did you receive any inquiries from the Goldsmiths regarding keeping potbelly pigs as pets?
No, not that I'm aware of.
When did the current zoning ordinance go into effect?
May 2022.
You've heard the testimony that the pigs have been at the property since June of 2022, correct?
That is correct.
So they've been at the property after our current zoning ordinance came into effect.
Correct.
Under the current zoning ordinance, would the non-commercial keeping of livestock be permitted in the R1 district?
No.
Where is that permitted?
That's permitted in the CR Conservation Residential District.
There's indication that, someone from the township indicated that these were, potbelly pigs were permitted as pets under the old ordinance. That wasn't you, correct?
Correct.
And indicated it was Chuck Pierce. Was, correct? The testimony.
The testimony, yes.
Was Chuck Pierce the zoning officer at the time?
Yes,
But he's no longer the zoning officer.
that is correct.
And in your interpretation of the old ordinance, which, again, I don't believe that there's a non-conforming use here, would potbelly pigs have been considered pets, household pets under the old ordinance?
Under the old ordinance, yes.
But under the new ordinance, they would fall within the definition of livestock,
Correct.
which is not permitted in this district.
That is correct.
You've also heard that they're requesting a variance for keeping the pigs in the R1 district, correct?
Correct.
Is there anything unique about the property that would prohibit it from being utilized in accordance with its zoning district as a residential house?
No, not that I'm aware of.
And based on the testimony, the issue was created by the homeowners, correct?
That appears to be correct.
And would this use of the property to have pigs be consistent with the residential district, like the use of the neighborhood?
No, not according to the ordinance.
To the extent the board was inclined to grant a variance to allow them to have that, would the structures, given the dimensions of the lot, be able to meet all of the setback requirements, do you think?
Without a survey, I can't answer that with 100% certainty, but judging from the area, I would say no.
So, obviously, the area does not meet the 2-acre minimum.
But that is correct.
And the minimum setback requirement per section 145C4 is 50 feet from the property line for structures or enclosures housing non-commercial livestock, correct?
That is correct.
And at least at this point, they've testified that the current pig house is 2 feet from the property line.
Correct.
And that under subsection 145-41C, 6,
I'm sorry, that was 33 inches, I believe, is what the...
33 inches,
Yes.
I'm sorry, thank you for correcting me.
Yeah.
Under 145-41C, subsection 6, that all fenced areas, pastures, recreation areas enclosed with a fence need to be a minimum of 10 feet from the adjoining street right-of-way lines or the property lines, correct?
Correct.
Based on at least the imagery from the Connects and your inspection of the property, does the fence appear to be 10 feet from the property line?
Again, without a survey, I can't answer with 100% certainty, but it does appear to be close to the property line.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Puz, let me just check really briefly if I have any further questions for you. And I want to direct you just to 145-15 of the ordinance. That's on page 46, no, 48. What is that section?
That is the R1 single-family residential district use table and setback table.
And under 145, if you look through section 145-15, is there any indication that the non-commercial keeping of livestock is permitted as an accessory use to the residential property?
No.
And if I could direct you to page 45, which is the CR district, correct?
Correct.
To 145-14, non-commercial keeping of livestock is permitted there, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Those are all the questions I have for you, Mr. Puz. Thank you.
You're
I don't know
welcome.
if the board or Mr. Margolis has any follow-up.
One question for you is, talks about an enclosure for the pigs. What's a setback on an enclosure in CR? Because I understand it's not even an R1, but in CR.
Let's see here, let me get to that.
I think it's 145 dash, right, you're asking Matt, not me.
Yeah. Well, 145-41C6, which states that's where it says shall be set back a minimum of 10 feet from adjoining street right-of-way lines or in property lines for the outdoor pasture recreation areas.
So when we say enclosure by definition, and maybe you'd have to go to the definition, is the enclosure the area that the pigs spend their time, basically the fenced area?
That's how I would interpret it, the area that's fenced in for the particular use of non-commercial keeping of livestock.
Right, so the enclosure is not just the area where they sleep or the pig pen, pig building, it's the entire area?
Correct.
Okay.
If I may though, but to the extent that there's a sleeping area or area housing it, I believe section 41C4 requires that sleeping structure be 50 feet from the property line.
Yep.
Yep.
I just wanted to basically confirm that when we talk enclosure, I could
says-
see how it could be confused that enclosure is just the enclosed area, but the way it's written and defined, the enclosure is the area that they live in, which is the entire fenced area as well, as an additional point. I don't have any...
Follow-up question, there's no definition then for domesticated pets? The only definition that would be applicable here would be livestock, is that correct?
That is correct.
Can you read that definition of livestock, just for the record? It's on page 21.
Yes. Yeah, under zoning ordinance section 145-11 definitions, livestock is defined. I'm sorry.
Just throw something at him.
Under section 145-11 definitions of the zoning ordinance, livestock is defined as, for the purposes of this chapter, livestock quotations shall be defined to include cows, pigs, horses, sheep, goats, llamas, and other similar types of farm animals.
farm animals, that's not a defined term, correct?
I don't believe so, but I don't have that in.
No, farm animal is not.
Anything else? Okay, we don't have anything else.
I don't have anything else.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Margolis, do you have anything else?
Can I ask Mr. Paz a couple questions?
Sure.
Mr. Paz, if somebody has a pet, if they have a dog and they have a dog house, a pet house for their dog, what's the setback requirements
That would be,
on this?
yes, that would be, I would consider that a detached accessory structure requiring a minimum of 2 feet from the side and rear property lines.
I'm sorry, did you say 3 feet?
2 feet.
No, it's not coming through.
That's it. 2 feet.
And a person who has a pet dog does not have to apply for a variance for a pet house, is that correct?
That is correct.
And the livestock section specifically states farm animals in its text, or other similar farm animals, is that correct?
That is correct.
No, that's critical, I can't hear that.
That is correct.
Thank you very much. No further questions.
Very briefly, Mr. Puz, in the definition of livestock, it doesn't make a distinction in terms of the type of pig, correct?
That is correct.
And is there anywhere else in the zoning ordinance, to your knowledge, that addresses pigs as pets?
No.
Thank you.
I do have a question for Emily, if you could come back up. You just sit right by the microphone so
Sure,
Margolis can hear.
sure.
The question I have is, we're using the word pig a lot, you're specifically using the word potbelly pig.
Yes.
Can you define, is
They're,
there a reason why you're
I
using a
mean, they're
different term?
pets, they're not a farm pig. I'm not raising them to eat or human consumption, like they're my pet pigs.
I mean, is a potbelly pig,
It's a type of breed, like there's coon pigs, there's like the potbelly, there's the Juliana. So,
okay.
just like,
So potbelly pigs are not bred for consumption, is
that's
what you're saying?
correct. Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
So,
Just curious, I see
Yeah, that's
two
fine.
different words on there, and I don't profess to know anything about
Yeah.
either, so, okay.
okay.
Yeah,
Can I ask Emily a question? Please?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Emily, can you hear me?
Yes.
There's some confusion about your testimony amongst everyone in the room. Your application states that Penelope and Patty came to live at your house in 2020. You conflicted with that, and I'm wondering if you can clear that up in a way that explain when they came to live there and why your testimony was inconsistent and gave different dates.
The pigs, they come of last summer of 2022, so they've been on our property for a year, a little over a year and a half. So there's, my fault for the confusion. Did you hear it?
No,
It was June of 20,
I can't hear you.
it was last summer of June of when I brought the pigs home from the boarding barn.
Still can't hear you, and this is critical to everyone.
It was last summer of June of when the pigs came home, of 2022.
It's what- That's when they first came to live at 2702 Angle Street?
Yes, that is when
I
I,
know your mother testified that it was in 2020?
it was last summer of June of 2022 is when they came home.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you have anything else, Mr. Margolis?
No, I don't. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anything else?
I don't have any further testimony.
Okay,
Just briefly summing it up,
okay.
the pigs have only been on the property since June of 2022, which is after the new zoning ordinance was adopted that specifically identifies that the non-commercial keeping of livestock is only permitted in the CR district. This is a residential district. It is a 60 by 150 size lot with 2 pigs on it. There would not likely be able to meet setback requirements, and to permit the pig there, it's just really challenging given the language in section 45-41C. As I indicated, this is not a non-conforming use issue, as I previously believed it to be, and so we would respectfully request that the request for variance be denied because they have not met any of the hardship requirements.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
I have closing if I'm allowed.
Yes?
Okay, so the issue is the same regardless. It's the same where I started, it's the same where we ended. Whichever testimony you believe about the date of their arrival, it's an issue of pet versus livestock. It's the same. I ask you, can you imagine if somebody had dogs that are 3 times as large as the pigs in the doghouse and they had to apply for a variance to have those? Livestock is livestock. Pets are pets. That's why I presented all the documentation to you to show that these are pets. The hardship exists because if they're required to have the setbacks of 145.41C or any of the other setbacks required, then it's impossible because of the lot size. Now, it's of course, it's under the MPC, it's within your discretion to make a ruling that says, okay, we would like the pet house to be 3 feet away, 5 feet away. However, under the current setback requirements, it's impossible for them to meet that, and that is the hardship, and I believe the testimony supports meeting of all the other MPC requirements, and I hope that you will see fit to grant my clients a variance so they can keep their pets. The neighbors supported them having it. I believe that the complainant doesn't even live in the neighborhood anymore. And I hope that you will see fit, like many other jurisdictions have, to realize that potbelly mini pigs are not farm animals, which weigh 800 to 1,000 pounds as pigs, and and these weigh 80 pounds. And they're smaller than Mastiffs, and Great Danes, and many other dogs. And guardian dogs stay outdoors all the time and live in the doghouse, and they don't have to go through this for them to be allowed. And then even if there is no definition, it do the same. Thank you. I appreciate you allowing me to appear remotely. Sorry for the difficulties with the audio. And that's it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to speak on this issue? Please come up, state your name and address.
My name is Martha Baginski.
Ask you to speak directly in the microphone so he can hear.
My name is Martha Baginski. I live at 2803 Steratania Road. It is where Angle Street meets Steratania Road.
Okay.
I live directly on the north side of Steratania, or east side of Steratania. My question is, okay, if we are saying that these pigs are pets, are they vaccinated? That's what I want to know. Like regular dogs and cats or anything else, they have to be updated on their vaccinations so they're not spreading diseases. I am one of the neighbors. I didn't even know they had potbelly pigs. I got the notice in the mail, and I came here to see what they wanted to put on their property. I assumed it was chickens. I mean, I have no objection to having pets, but my concern is, are these so-called pets, which they have, the pigs, are they vaccinated like the other pets that everybody else has in the neighborhood?
Okay.
Because like I said, I mean, pigs can get diseases, they can be spread. They do have dogs on their property, which run freely. They get loose all the time. And the dogs, I'm sure, are in the backyard with these pigs, and if they come in contact, diseases can be spread. With the dogs walking through the neighborhood, they can bring that disease onto everybody else's property. So that is my concern, only from
Okay.
listening to everything going on. And the only other thing I want to say is, I have no objection to having pets, but when we start bringing farm animals into the city, that's another whole new ballgame. And if I wanted to be in a neighborhood where there were farm animals, I would have bought a farm 36 years ago when I bought my house. I didn't. I bought my house in the city limits to raise my children and grandchildren, so we could be in a regular neighborhood. So I don't want this neighborhood or their house being made a specific, or have it rezoned so they can have domestic or livestock animals. Only because once we give that ordinance to them, then the rest of the neighbors can do the same thing. And I said, I've been there 36 years. I plan on being there until I die, and I don't want it to turn into a farm. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else? Please come on up.
Hi, my name's Elisa McGraw, and I own the lot, the vacant lot that adjoins this property.
To the rear?
Yes.
Okay.
They do not have a fence in the back of the yard. That is my fence that they have connected their fence to. I do not agree with the pigs. I agree with the lady that just spoke. If we, pass ordinances that allow pigs in this house, we might have a cow next door to that house, and then we end up with a lot more problems. I mean, that's the reason we have zoning laws and rules. I have been trying to sell this property, and one of the problems that I've been having this past year, since they got the pigs, is people have come back and said, you know, I don't like the smell from the pigs, I don't like the noises coming from the pigs, and I'm not going to build a new house and have 2 giant pigs in my backyard. And that's my complaint.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else?
Beth Jakowski, 2947 West 25th. Against, I don't want it changed, I don't want to set the precedence, and a pig is not a pet, a pig is a farm animal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kendra Parker, 2939 West 25th Street. I empathize for the owners of the pigs, but I do not support the appeal to allow livestock, including pigs, but also cows, horses, goats, llamas, etc. I disagree with the attorney that this issue is about the pet pigs. It's about the variance and its intended purpose. The lot is in a residential neighborhood, and this variance could take effect and would be in effect for forever. This sets a precedent that shouldn't be set, as we don't know what effect this might have. We don't know what other animals could be brought onto a property, this property, either by these people or by anyone else who might reside there in the future. People who raise livestock commonly train their animals and become very attached to them, but that doesn't mean that they should live in a residential neighborhood. Even though the pigs sound like they may be fine pets, it's the change of the ordinance and the effects that this has on our area in the future that is my concern. What would stop my neighbor from buying a cow to combat milk prices or make cheese? You know, can you imagine the mooing or the mess it could make or the smell? Can you, again, I empathize with the pet owners here and with the pigs as they have to leave the owners that they know and love. But it's very sad, but it's the ongoing effects of the change of the ordinance that would be the reason that I would not support the appeal.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we're going to take a recess and discuss the cases. We'll be back shortly. Okay, let the record show we reconvened at 7:41. On appeal number 23-13, Dick's Sporting Goods, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the variance as presented.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? So moved. Appeal number 23-14, Carrie, Helen, and Emily Goldsmith, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to deny the application.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor of denial?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? So moved. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved.
Yep.